He is the most written about human being in history. More biographies, more verses, more reverence than almost any name ever spoken. And yet for 40 years, 2/3 of his entire life, almost nothing was written about him at all. No miracles, no sermons, no followers. Just a man in a stone city, trading cloth and leather, raising other people's children, known to his neighbors by a single, quiet word: trustworthy. This is the man before the prophet, the orphan before the revelation, the merchant before the message. We know the Muhammad of Medina, the leader, the lawgiver, the figure who bent the course of history. But the boy who lost everyone, the shepherd who watched the stars, the young man trusted with other people's gold, that man is rarely told. And once you understand him, you will never hear the rest of the story the same way again. The year is around 570 in the Christian calendar. The place is Mecca, not a green oasis, but a bowl of bare rock and heat in the western Arabian desert, ringed by mountains, far from any river. It is a trading town built around a cube of stone called the Kaaba, a sanctuary then crowded with the idols of 100 tribes. Mecca lived on caravans and pilgrims. Its rulers were the Quraysh, the tribe that controlled the well of Zamzam and the trade routes north to Syria and south to Yemen. Into this world, a child is born to a clan called Banu Hashim, respected but not rich. His father, Abdullah, is already dead, lost on a journey before the boy ever drew breath. His mother, Amina, gives him a name almost unheard of in Arabia: Muhammad, the praised one. A strange name for a fatherless child in a society where a man was nothing without his lineage and his protectors. By the custom of the Quraysh, infants were sent into the desert to be raised among the Bedouin, where the air was clean and the Arabic was pure. So Muhammad spent his earliest years with a foster mother named Halima in open country, learning to walk among sheep and tents before he ever knew the streets of Mecca. Then the losses began. When he was around 6, his mother took him to visit his father's grave near Yathrib, the town later called Medina. On the road home, she fell ill and died. The boy watched it happen. He was returned to Mecca, an orphan now twice over. His grandfather, Abd al-Muttalib, an old and honored chief, took him in. 2 years later, the grandfather died too. Muhammad was 8, and he had now buried, in effect, the 3 people closest to a child. He passed into the care of his uncle, Abu Talib, a man of standing but little wealth, with many mouths of his own to feed. The Quran itself would later speak to this directly, in words traditionally read as God addressing the prophet's own life. Did he not find you an orphan and give you shelter? To earn his keep, the boy worked. He herded sheep in the hills around Mecca for a few coins, a humble trade, and one he never seemed ashamed of. Later, he would say that every prophet had once been a shepherd. As he grew, he joined his uncle's caravans, traveling north along the ancient routes towards Syria, watching the markets of Bostra and the edges of the Byzantine world. It is on one of these journeys, the early biographers tell us, that a Christian monk named Bahira is said to have noticed something in the boy and warned his uncle to guard him well. That story sits on the border of history and legend. But what is certain is this: the desert and the caravan were his only school. No scripture, no academy, just the sky, the trade road, and the hard arithmetic of survival. And in the markets of Mecca, where a merchant's word was his only contract, the young man earned a reputation that would define him long before any angel spoke. They called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy, and As-Sadiq, the truthful. People left their valuables in his keeping. They asked him to settle disputes. In a city of fierce tribal rivalry and sharp bargaining, here was a man whose honesty was simply assumed. That reputation reached a wealthy widow named Khadija, a successful merchant in her own right, who hired men to carry her goods north. She entrusted her caravan to Muhammad. He came back with profit and with a character her servant could not stop praising. Khadija, older than him, established, sought after by many, sent him an offer of marriage. He was about 25. She is remembered as around 40. He accepted, and for the next 24 years until her death, he took no other wife. She would also become the very first person on earth to believe him. There is one more scene from these silent years, and it reveals the man completely. Around the age of 35, the Quraysh rebuilt the Kaaba after a flood. When the work reached the sacred black stone, the tribes nearly came to blood over who would have the honor of setting it back in place. The dispute grew so bitter that swords were drawn. At last, they agreed. Let the next man to enter the sanctuary decide. That man was Muhammad. He did not choose a tribe. He laid the stone on a cloak and asked the leaders of each clan to take hold of an edge, so they lifted it together. Then, with his own hands, he set it into the wall. No one was humiliated. No one was favored. The crisis dissolved. Years before he claimed to speak for God, he had already shown what he valued most. Not power, but peace between people who could not stand one another. We tend to imagine prophets arriving fully formed, descending from the mountain already holy, already certain. But the sources describe something far more human. For 40 years, Muhammad performed no miracles and preached no doctrine. He buried his parents. He herded animals. He carried other men's merchandise across the desert and returned an honest accounting. He married, raised children, mourned the ones who died young. Historians like Montgomery and Karen Armstrong note what the traditional sources never hide: that before he was anything else, he was an ordinary man, trusted absolutely by the people who knew him most intimately. And that is the detail too easily skipped. When he finally came down from a cave at the age of 40, shaking, and told the people of Mecca that he had received a word from God, the first to be persuaded were not strangers won by spectacle. They were the people who had watched him live, his wife, his cousin, his closest friend. They believed the message because they had already, for decades, believed the man. Today, that single name, Muhammad, the praised one, given to a fatherless boy in a desert town, is thought to be the most common given name on earth. It is spoken in Jakarta and Cairo, in London and Lagos, carried by tens of millions of men who will never see Arabia. And the title his neighbors gave him still travels with it. In Arabic, parents still name their sons Amin, trustworthy. The reputation a young merchant built one honest transaction at a time in a marketplace 14 centuries ago outlived every caravan, every coin, every tribe that ever competed in that valley. This is the part of the story almost always rushed past. Before the revelation, before the verses, before the empire that would follow, there was simply a man known for keeping his word. For 40 years he asked no one to believe in anything. He only lived among them, and when at last he claimed that the divine had spoken to him, the strongest evidence he could offer was not a miracle. It was his own past. He had been honest when no one was watching, and so, when it mattered most, the people who knew him best found that they could not call him a liar.